Story 1. I shouldn't have opened that door in my grandfather's house. I inherited my grandfather's house a few months ago. It's a small, isolated farmhouse in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by woods. I inherited my grandfather's house a few months ago. My mum didn't want it, so when the lawyer handling the estate contacted me, I figured I'd at least check it out before deciding what to do with it. I never met him. He died before I was born, and my mum never really talked about him. All I knew was that he built the house himself and that he died in it. My mum wanted nothing to do with the place. When I told her I was thinking about keeping it, she got weirdly quiet and just said, "I wouldn't if I were you." I didn't listen. At first, everything seemed fine. The house was old but solid, and I figured I could fix it up. It smelled musty, like no one had lived there for a long time. But that was expected. The first night, I noticed the house made a lot of noise popping. But some of the sounds were different. I'd hear floorboards groaning in the next room when I was sitting completely still. A couple of times, I could have sworn I heard faint shuffling upstairs. But when I went to check, there was nothing. I told myself it was just the house settling. Then I found the basement. The door was locked with a heavy old padlock. That struck me as weird. Why would my grandfather lock his own basement? The key wasn't anywhere, so I ended up cutting the lock off. The basement itself wasn't that unusual. Just dusty shelves, old furniture, and a bunch of junk covered in cobwebs. But in the far corner, I noticed something strange. A second door, almost hidden behind a stack of crates. Unlike the rest of the basement, which was unfinished wood and stone, this door was solid, dark oak, reinforced with iron brackets. I hesitated. Something about it felt wrong. The air was heavier near it, like the basement was just a little colder on that side. I should have left it alone, but I didn't. The door was nailed shut, but after some work, I managed to pry it open. The smell that hit me was awful mold, damp wood, and something else. Something rotten. Inside was a small, windowless room. A single wooden chair sat in the middle, its arms scratched and splintered. The walls were covered in deep gouges, like someone had tried to claw their way out. And the worst part, there were chains on the floor, rusted, broken chains. I got this overwhelming feeling that I had just made a huge mistake. That night, I slept in the living room with all the lights on. At around 2 a.m., I woke up to a sound. A faint, slow scratching. It was coming from inside the basement. I held my breath, listening. It was soft at first, but then it got loud, dragging scrapes against wood, like nails raking across a door. My stomach dropped. I was the only one in the house. I grabbed my flashlight and crept toward the basement door. I don't even know why. I think I just wanted to prove to myself that I was imagining it. But as soon as I reached the top of the basement stairs, the scratching stopped. I stood there for a long time, heart pounding, before finally locking the basement door and forcing myself to go back to bed. The next morning, I called my mum. I didn't even know what I wanted to ask. I just needed to hear her voice. When I mentioned the basement, she went completely silent. Then she just said, "You didn't open the door, did you?" My blood ran cold. I told her I had. She let out this shaky breath and said, "Listen to me. Your grandfather, he wasn't a good man. He did things. Whatever he locked in that basement, it was never supposed to get out." That was all she would say. She refused to talk about it any further. I left that day, packed up and drove to a motel. But the thing is, I don't think leaving helped. A few nights ago, I woke up to the sound of scratching. Not in the basement, outside my bedroom door. And last night, as I lay in bed, frozen in fear, I swear to God, I felt something press against the mattress. I don't know what to do. Story 2. My wife will not stop eating. April 23rd. Chapter 1. My wife's sickness. I texted in a group chat with all of my friends. Are we ready for tonight? Everyone responded agreeing that they couldn't wait anymore. How all of them would get drunk and have the best time of their life. We had a party for one of our other friends. Just stupid guys stuff. Hanging out, the fun adult life. I was getting ready to party with all my friends tonight. Food, alcohol, games, and more good stuff, if you know what I mean. I dropped a big cooler by the front door, and I heard a sudden loud thud from upstairs. I ran up to see my wife on the floor, holding her stomach hard, like she could squeeze out her own organs. I ran up to her, asking if she was okay. She only grunted and whimpered, like someone had just attacked her. I grabbed my phone and called 911, asking for an ambulance. I was with her the entire ride to the hospital, holding, gripping, tightening her hand with mine. She was in pain, and I couldn't do anything. I didn't even know what was happening to her. After a few hours of waiting at the hospital, impatiently walking around the room, waiting for any kind of news, it felt like days, until I heard the click of the door opening. A doctor walked inside of the room with a chart. I asked him, "William, finally, what the hell happened to her?" The doctor sighed, looking at the chart again. "Doctor, we don't exactly know. Her stomach seemed to have just grew a few inches. You'd normally see this in a long-term effect. Gas, toxic waste, fluid buildup. It also looked scarred." "William, what?" "Like something cut her stomach, doctor, and healed it in a matter of minutes. It's not something that even we can explain. But what we can do is offer her a prescription of probiotic supplements. Something to help her pass waste easier, and maybe something to help with the pain." "William, what else can we do? This isn't normal, right?" "Doctor, I'll say, give it a few days. 2 to 3 weeks maybe. Come back and we'll see how everything is." "William, right, thanks, doctor." I took her home, made sure she was staying in bed to rest, and made her take her pills. She hates pills, but she needed to. I unfortunately had to cancel off my friends last minute. They whined, but I didn't really care at that moment. My wife was in pain. Something strange had happened to her, and I felt sick to my stomach. This feeling of weakness, unable to do anything, only to wait and see what stupid fucking pills are going to do. Sorry, stress of the job was why I was excited to go out with my friends. We went back home, and I had trouble sleeping. My wife kept making weird clicking noises and stomach grumbles. I tried waking her up a bunch. She wouldn't wake up. So I eventually tuned it out and went to bed. April 24th. I woke up today to my wife, well, on the toilet, vomiting and, well, shitting. She was sitting on the toilet holding a bucket in her lap. It was like this for an hour. I went outside of the bathroom. After 10 minutes of pauses, between long coughing and gagging on her own vomit, I couldn't take it. I called the doctor again, asking if this was in any way, shape or form even possible for someone. He told me that, "Doctor, It's possible the sudden change in her stomach caused something to make the pills more effective than needed, and to just be by her side with water, a lot of water. Another 10 minutes passed by of godful sounds that I couldn't bear to hear it anymore. I wanted them to stop, but if they did, I'm worried of what that would mean. Would it know I have to be there for her? And finally, I ran into the bathroom, holding a cup of water near her and putting my hand on her shoulder. "William, honey, are you all right?" She breathed out weakly, trying to grab the cup. Of course, I helped her, moved her head back and poured some water slowly inside of her mouth. It smelled awful in there. I didn't care at the moment. My wife looked like shit, and all I could offer her was a cup of goddamn water. She choked on it. I grabbed a few tissues and cleaned around her mouth. I had the curiosity to peek inside of the bucket and noticed a red liquid mixed with everything else. I knew it was blood, a lot of it. How could it not be? But there were a lot more fluids combined with everything. After a long 6 hours of cleaning everything, the toilet, the bucket, the bathroom, the shower, my wife, I told my job I couldn't come in for a few days. My wife was sick. I got a bit of an attitude from my boss, but I didn't care. My wife was my importance. She was my priority. I loved her. Even with everything going on, she had not prayed today. I knew she was a Christian, so were her parents. She was born into it, raised with it. When I hadn't seen her put her hands together like she always did, even when sick, especially when sick, I didn't like that thought. I put her to bed after everything. She asked me, coughing like she was about to spit out her lungs, "Erica, could you get me something to eat?" My eyes widened a bit, the pure shock of that question. I'm not sure why it affected me so much. The thought of vomiting all that time. How could she even eat, but thinking about it? How could she not eat? Her body was probably the most fragile and weak that it's ever been. I agreed, told her I'd get her a bunch of different stuff. I went downstairs. We had a lot of leftovers because, well, we ordered a lot and didn't cook much. I brought her a box of half-finished pizza, mashed potatoes, a brunch left over we did last Sunday, a few drinks, and a bunch of other things. She started eating them like her stomach was on the verge of eating itself. She chomped down on everything I had brought her. I didn't think of it much at first. In all honesty, I didn't know what to think. I was worried about her. I was just happy she was eating after that horrible morning, April 25th to 27th. She was in bed all those days. I called around families, friends, anyone who could potentially give some sort of explanation of what was going on. She was eating and eating. I had to order $200 worth of food for her and only her. VA only had 2 meals so far. I'm hungry too, but not as much as she was, much as she is hungry. I've been texting my friend, Tom. I've known him since we were kids. He's been as helpful as he could be. What could he really do? I let him know how she was, how things were, and what mostly was happening. I was tired every time I closed my eyes. I heard her yell out to me. She was hungry. I told her a few times that the delivery guy was a few minutes away. I was tired. I already said that I hadn't slept for a long time. 36 constant hours awake, blinking away from collapsing, hungry and worried. I hadn't even realized by then, but my eyes and body felt so heavy. It felt like tiredness was adding extra weight to my body, and then without even realizing it. I woke up joltingly and looked around. It had only been 2 hours. It took me a good minute to remember what was going on. My wife, the food outside. Right. I got up and got the food at the door. It had piled up. I'm sure they were probably asking questions. It didn't matter. I picked it all up and brought it upstairs, keeping a few things for myself. I turned on the television and began eating. I had a bunch of fried stuff from everywhere. I just needed to eat something. I heard her upstairs, eating, crunching, savoring, like she had never eaten before. I wasn't disgusted, but I was concerned about what I was hearing. How could this happen? Why was she like this? I shook it off and took a few bites of my food, until I realized something crucial. I had ordered fried fish. I must have ordered it without even realizing. I just picked a bunch of food. It didn't seem to matter to her. And I was tired. My wife is allergic to seafood. Anything that is fish, it could kill her. I dropped everything and ran upstairs, practically launching myself into the room. I even thought about breaking the door down. Thankfully, I didn't, but I entered the room, yelling at her to not eat anything. But she had eaten most of everything, including the seafood I had ordered. William, shit, I'm so sorry, honey. I didn't realize I ordered fish. Where's your EpiPen? I looked around frantically, everywhere, anywhere, and she looked up at me. Erica, what do you mean? I feel fine. It's been like 10 minutes. I feel fine, really. William W. What do you mean? I went up to her and looked at her. She did seem totally fine. The fish somehow hadn't affected her like it did back when we were younger. She had to go to the hospital for practically a week. Needed help breathing and everything. I stayed in the room for another 5 minutes with her to make sure she was fine. I had the EpiPen ready, just in case. I don't know what was worse. The feeling that she was going to react at any point, or that she just continued eating. Chapter 2, Experiences. April 28th. I was downstairs, texting Tom again. Even he was baffled. He was aware of her allergy. It says online that in a few rare cases, allergies can leave the body or with a lot of treatments and pills. Not the ones my wife had gotten. And she hadn't left the house. Hell, she had left the bed since she came back from the hospital. I was officially concerned about everything. I thought this would have gone away after yesterday, but after the fish incident, I'm not sure what to think, and I'm on high alert on everything. She asked me at first to get more seafood. She wanted to try it. I was reluctant at first, but eventually agreed. Maybe this was her way to actually get better, little. A very small part of me thought it would have been over after a few more days. I cooked up some of the salmon I bought and brought it up with her pills and some water. She barely waited for me to put the plate down and started eating. I thought she was about to bite into my hand. I was startled a bit, but I quickly put the pills to the desk with the water. William, don't forget to take your pills. Erica, right. Yeah, my pills. I walked back downstairs. I had the EpiPen ready next to the drawer next to our bed, just in case. But I never needed it. I admit I crashed down onto the couch and fell asleep. All the sudden energy from last night, with my sudden panic about what I let her eat, boosted me up, and well, now it finally got to me. I'm not sure what had happened, but when I woke up to an awful chewing sound. Crunching and chewing. It was night. I had slept for maybe 10 to 12 hours straight. I got up and walked to the kitchen. I turned on the light, seeing my wife eating the rest of the salmon that I had bought. except I hadn't cooked that one yet. Raw fish isn't exactly bad for you, sushi and such, but seeing it just in action, it felt haunting. This was the first time since that day that I had seen her out of bed. I was a bit relieved, but afraid to approach her. She looked up at me, chewing. God, I hated that noise. The disgusting gooey noises it made. The wild sadistic tearing of meat and other materials through her teeth. Erica, hey Will, sorry. I figured you fell asleep. I just got so hungry, I didn't want to bother you. I saw you on the couch and decided to get something. William, it's fine. How are you feeling? Erica, HM. Mostly hungry, but hey, I'm working on it. Sorry for making you overwork and everything. William, hey. Don't worry about it. It's just about making you feel better. I'm glad I can help. I forced a smile on my face. I'm not sure why. Why didn't I just smile? I was happy to make sure she was healthy. Erica, I'll stay here for a bit. Grab a few more things, if that's okay. William, maybe actually you could calm it with the eating. I'm spending a lot of money to give you so much food in so little time. I understand you can be hungry, but this isn't normal. Erica, well, I don't know what to tell you. I'm just in a hungry mood. I need food. William, then I'm taking it out of your account. I can't spend all this money on just food. Try to eat less too. I walked upstairs into our room a bit pissed. Before I started my ascent, I heard clicking from the kitchen. I looked back to see my wife, still eating. I brushed it off, thinking it was just background noises, and went up to our room. I expected it to be filthy, full of trash, when I entered though. The room was clean, only the best was filthy. And the room smelled like if you walked through an alley of dead animals. Where did all of the boxes ordered and bags gone to? I started taking off the sheets and put them in the washer. I used some Febreze to cover up the awful smell. I don't know how she lived in this room for days now, just eating. As always, whilst waiting, I texted Tom, telling him about everything that had happened up until now. This time though, I actually called him. I needed to hear someone's voice. Anything but the disgusting damn chewing and crunching I heard for the past days. William, hey man. Sorry for suddenly calling, I'm not doing too good. Tom, no worries, man. It's completely understandable. A lot of weird shit is happening on your end. How is she, by the way? William, I don't know. She seems physically and mentally fine, just eating so much. She took out the trash. She can get out of bed, just doesn't. The doctor told us to give it 3 weeks, but I kind of want to bring her back sooner. Tom, I'd say to call them, let them know what's going on, that you're worried for her and, well, from what you told me, you've spent a lot of money and have not been earning much. How much longer can this go on? William, yeah, no, you're right. I'll call them, get an appointment, get this whole thing fixed. And one more thing. Tom, what's up? William, ... I need a camera. Like a nanny cam or something. April 30th. My friend Tom got me a camera to set up. Inside my house in the living room, and in my bedroom, from time to time. I'd check to see my wife chomping down on the next food I had gotten for her. I didn't watch any longer than that. Reminds me that I tried getting her to the hospital today, so that Tom could set up the cameras. She did not want to leave the house. The doctor had to come over on his day off. I apologized to him. He went to check out my wife, and he had somehow brought Erica outside long enough so that Tom could set them up. Afterwards, the doctor told me that she wasn't eating properly. She was losing weight. I chuckled sarcastically. William, are you fucking serious? All she's been doing is eating. I'm down $500 in food only for her, and you're telling me that she has not been gaining weight. Doctor, something she might be doing. Not actually eating, maybe, or exercising when you sleep. The best thing you can do is keep helping her. Make sure she eats. William, she's in bed all day. She watches TV shows about cooking, for God's sake. We talked for another 10 minutes. I had denied that Erica wasn't eating. She was eating. I know she was. My wife didn't exercise. She watched what she ate. She didn't eat too much or too little. She had a good metabolism. Something was wrong, deeply wrong. That night, I even checked my suspicions. I had spent way more than $500. I had to stop spending so much, from whoever's account. This was an absurd amount of money to spend on food for 1 week. The 1st of May, she's eating again. I don't know what she was eating. Her hands were covered in a substance, but it was meat that I could smell, either expired or something else. I went to bed at around 8 p.m. last night. I slept on the couch. I thought I'd check the cameras, see what they picked up. I checked the live feed of her eating like she was a king. Had food everywhere, like I hadn't even cleaned the sheets. I had ordered her a few things again, not knowing what she had eaten yesterday. Kind of freaked me out. I made sure to order extra. I had made some breakfast for myself before doing so. I looked at my eggs and pushed the plate away. I couldn't bear the thought of eating. I reviewed the footage. Christ, I was almost thankful. I hadn't eaten my eggs. I would have thrown them up right after. At 9 p.m., she had gotten up from the bed, walked downstairs to me, sleeping on the couch, and she just stared at me from the stairs. I sped up the footage, stared at me for 2 hours straight, not moving an inch, her eyes darting me through the dark. After exactly 2 hours and 13 minutes, she suddenly moved to the kitchen. I couldn't see anything. I should have thought about putting one there, but I could see a tiny bit into the kitchen. She was looking through the fridge. Anywhere that could have food. She couldn't find much. Canned food and such. Midnight, she was done with most of everything. Sauces were left, condiments, powdered products like soup and spices. A few minutes passed by of her gathering all of it. She couldn't possibly, right? As I thought, she couldn't do what I thought she was going to do. She did exactly that. She opened the lids and packets of all of them and chugged them. I couldn't see her face, but I could see her chest and her arms. I knew what she was doing. I closed the laptop immediately. I could hear the loud and horrifying gulps that were thudding inside her throat. I choked a bit, gagging. It took me a good hour to recover from what I had just seen and heard. But even then, I was disturbed. I'll never forget it. I sent the footage to Tom. I wasn't crazy, and I needed someone to know what was happening to my wife, and I had to know what my wife was doing to herself, hopefully seeing why she was doing this. I took a breath and continued watching this cursed footage of a woman seeming like she was poisoning herself. From 1 a.m. to 3 a.m., she drank and ate cleaning products. Charcoal, strong alcohol, like it was nothing. The cooler that I had brought for the party, I hadn't emptied it. She did. Ate all the food in it, drank all the beers, alcohol, and even ate the weed I was going to bring. She didn't smoke it. She ate it. She desperately looked around for more things to eat. She went back upstairs. I switched cameras to saw her eating the bags that once held the food she ate. That's how she was getting rid of the boxes and bags. She wasn't taking the trash out. She was eating them. Plastic, cardboard boxes, paper. I could feel my heart race, pumping faster. I was panicking. What happened to No? What is wrong with her? After her feast, she stopped and looked down at the floor in a weird way. And I realized after a bit she was staring at me. Not at the camera, but me downstairs. She knew where I was. She knew exactly where I was at that moment. I knew she had watched me, but the sight of it felt like a hunter stalking its prey. I closed the laptop once again. I couldn't. I didn't want to know what the hell was upstairs pretending to be my wife. Pretending to be human. I could feel every hair on my body standing. I was on edge. I was scared, afraid. Every and any question was popping into my head, sending me into this crisis. I had to get a grip. I had to know this was real. I rubbed my hand with my fingers, feeling everything around me. My smells, my mouth, my touch. I started panicking even more, but then I saw a picture on our wall. Upon seeing it, I remembered a lot about my wife. Everything that we've lived together. When I met her parents, how nervous I was. When I asked her to marry me. I breathed out like I hadn't sucked out air in forever. The relief, but then the sudden realization hit me even harder after. This was real. This is happening. I had to keep ordering food for it. Keep it at bay. Keep it here. Chapter 3. The Monster in My House. May 3rd. I went out yesterday. After all of that, I took an extra day. Spoke with Tom about the situation. He told me to potentially get out of the house for a few days, in which I agreed. I didn't take anything with me. I took my phone, wallet, and keys and left the house. I went to my parents. I explained that I needed a break from Erica. I didn't tell them exactly what was going on, but I told them that I needed to see them. I can connect the cameras to my phone. I was afraid to check. But inside me I needed to. How far would this go? She could actually take this? After forcing myself to eat what my mother had made me, it wasn't bad. But thinking of eating only made me think of what I had seen my wife do to herself. I had a lot of water to force everything down my stomach. I looked at my phone and opened the surveillance app and looked. I almost dropped my phone on the floor. My face went white. My whole body froze. She was on the couch, eating the fabric, tearing through the leather on the covers, the cotton inside. I could see the kitchen, and it was ravaged. Everything was open. Glass was shattered. The doors of the cabinets almost broken off their hinges. "William, what the fuck?" I whispered out, trying to cover my words. "Mum, what's wrong, dear?" I spaced out. I didn't even realize my mother was standing near me. I looked up at her, hiding my phone. "William, nothing." "Mom, sorry. Just Tom sending me a stupid photo." "Mum, oh, I see. Are you all right? You look tense. Do you want some iced tea?" "William, yeah, I'm fine. My job is just a tad stressful. Nothing I can't handle, I promise. But no thanks. I have to get going." I once again forced a smile on my face. I hated it. My own mother. I couldn't tell her what was going on. How could she understand? The video seems like enough evidence yet. No, I couldn't bring her into it. I had to take care of myself, whatever that meant. I left the morning after, telling them thank you for taking care of me. But I had to talk this out with Erica, of course lying. I went to someone, hoping maybe someone had some answers, her brother. I asked him what had happened to their family, seeing if anything could relate to my current problem. Erica never talked about them. I only met them when I was younger, and they had died a few years before I married her. He was a bit hesitant at first, but he told me he didn't know much about what had happened either. Ray, I wish I could tell you, but the cops only said that they disappeared, or missing, and to not hold out hope. Me and Erica just accepted it. Not much we could have done. Their house was emptied out. Nothing from the past or from now was found. William, nothing was found. Ray, not a single object. It looked like an empty box, like a newly constructed house. William, something wrong is going on with your sister, and I don't know what to do. I thought you might know what was happening. Ray, wait, what? What do you mean? What's going on? I thought about explaining, but even I had trouble believing me in my own words. So I showed Ray the footage, and he was taken aback. He was horrified, but he looked like it didn't affect him as much as it affected me. Ray, our dad, texted us too, saying that our mom would not stop eating whatever she got her hands on. He didn't have video, but we never believed him, or we thought he was talking crazy. We didn't think, God. William, what do I do? What can I do for her? Ray, I'm not sure. This isn't normal. Can anyone even do this? Can anyone come out of this alive after ingesting all of that shit? Is it even Erica anymore? I thought about it, how it could even be real. How could it even be her anymore? She had drunk cleaning products and looked as healthy as ever. That's not human, not anymore, at least. William, what do I do? I can't just leave her there. What if she eventually leaves the house? She's already tearing up the furniture. Ray, I don't know. But if that thing was also responsible for my parents' death and now somehow is infecting Erica, the best thing to do would be to try and kill it. I hated to say it, thinking it could still be my wife, but I agreed. This creature needed to be put down. It needed to be killed. I left the house, not wanting Ray to be a part of this. I took my car and left to a gun shop. I didn't own a gun, but I had a license. Never thought I would have had to use one, especially the person I loved the most in life. I got a Glock 17, nothing too fancy, something quick. I headed home. I wondered what went wrong, what had happened to us, and what caused this. So many questions, and yet so little to no answers. I didn't even know if that thing eating my couch was my wife anymore. If it was even, I don't know what it was. And it insulted me by mimicking my wife, our memories together. I arrived at my driveway and immediately knew something was wrong. I walked up to my door and it was gone. I already had my weapon ready for whatever was waiting for me. I walked inside on edge. I aimed at every little noise or movement my ears and eyes could catch. I was nervous and scared. I didn't know if I had what it took to do it. The living room was cleaned out. And I don't mean the room was cleaned. It was empty, completely empty. Had she eaten everything? I walked into the kitchen. Same thing, all the cupboards were empty. The microwave had no more door. Everything that wasn't nailed down or could be removed easily was gone. I went upstairs, same thing. My bedroom was cleaned out. Not a single crumb of whatever that thing considered food was left. I think it didn't eat the house because it would have raised even more suspicions. The house looked like no one had ever lived here. Portraits, clocks, furniture, and the newly placed cameras too. Nothing, and the worst part, she wasn't there either. I ran outside in the backyard, and I heard the neighbor's kids screaming. I turned to look, seeing something that resembled my wife on all fours, biting down on the kid's arm, having it fully inside of her mouth, like it had no throat to cough on, just a mouth. The thing looked like my wife, but its teeth had been broken, making them sharp. Its eyes were wide, like they hadn't slept. Its torso was mostly bones. At least of what I could see, it was dirty, dark, and expulsed by the most awful smell of rotting meat. Waste, it itself was dead, yet it needed to eat. I was horrified, but I mustered the words screaming at it. "William, let go of her." I shot at its leg, and the bullet hit it. But it didn't puncture its skin. The bullet didn't go through, it just stopped, slowly being dragged inside of its body like it was eating it. This gun was useless. I put the gun back in my pants and I ran over and hopped the fence, grabbed a wooden bat that was on the ground and grabbed it. I played a bit when I was younger. Let's say my swing was brutal. I swung at the thing's face, and it clunked, hitting full force, even breaking the bat. All three of us fell down. It let go of the girl's arm and she ran off into her house, calling out for her parents. I didn't really want to or have the time to think about why that had worked. I took the rest of the bat and plunged it into the chest of the thing. It screeched this unholy scream and kicked me off of it, absorbing the rest of the bat into its stomach. It sent me crashing into the fence and I blacked out for a few minutes, and that's all it needed. I came back to the creature being gone and the door of the house was gone. I stood up and went inside of the neighbor's house. It had been cleaned out or eaten out. William, God damn it, no. I crumbled to my knees, knowing what it had done. I was about to give up until I heard that loud, disgusting clanking of teeth, tearing through material, gnawing into its stomach. It hadn't left the house. The noise it made, it never left me. I knew it was that monster, but what else could I try? Bullets didn't work, melee weapons either, but maybe. Like any other wild animal, any other savage beast. I stood up and ran to my car and opened the trunk, grabbing a fuel canister. I had it in an emergency, just in case. We ran out of gas on the highway one day on vacation, and I made sure to always pack an extra in case. She always made fun of me by packing extra just to be careful. I closed the trunk hard, staring at the gas can. I only had one way to light it. Chapter 4. My wife was eaten. I entered my neighbor's house and poured gas on every entrance, windows, every possible exit so it couldn't get out. But before I could reach outside, its long, disgusting hand grabbed me. Its fingers felt like knives slowly slicing into my skin. It threw me back inside into the wall. I looked up at it, and before I could take out my weapon, it pinned my left hand into the wall with its sharp finger. I squealed in pain and looked up at this greed creature. I still didn't understand. Why? How these hundreds of questions? These thoughts rushing into my head were suddenly silenced by my own voice. As I spoke to it, "William, what are you? What are you? Why were you pretending to be her? I know you're not her." I heard it quickly, gasping and wheezing. It was laughing at me, like the answer was obvious. I felt fear and rage growing inside of me. But it opened its mouth slowly in an unworldly way. In all directions, its mouth started growing, expanding. I was looking at an abyss that I was going to become a part of it. Then the little girl suddenly stabbed the creature at the top of the head. I could see a sharp, broken piece of wood sticking through inside its mouth. It yelped out and backed away. Looking at the girl, it screeched, shouting so loud it roared through the entire house, shattering the windows. In that quick instance, that sharp pain in my hand, I felt when it nudged its claw out, gave me the adrenaline. Rush and I took out the gun from my pants and shot at the ground, igniting the fuel, and the thing turned its head back at me. I was somehow able to move out of the way. I ran for the kid and jumped out of the window. It hurt a bit, but nothing to what I had been through for the last week. I kept her safe, and so did her parents before dying of that monster. I told her to leave. I told her to get as far away, anywhere but here. William, get out of here. Kid, go. Get somewhere safe. She took off running on the sidewalk, away from the house that had caught fire. I could hear it inside, screaming, trying to get out. I turned around and walked away, hoping it was over. But the thing is smarter than I believed. It jumped out of the second-floor window and crashed onto me. It was burnt, revealing its actual body. It was horrifying. I can't give much detail, but this thing. It spoke. I couldn't understand the thing. It spoke in tongues or another language. It kept me inside the house, knowing I wouldn't get out now. I had accepted my fate. It'll burn. It'll burn with it, but I had to try something. Couldn't let my life go out in vain. I could see inside its body through its mouth. Like I saw before, a complete abyss. Nothing of light could be coming from deep inside of this bottomless pit. It grabbed me, and I couldn't move whilst it forced me down its mouth. I probably bled out inside its stomach. The police and firefighters soon arrived. They had found the little girl and started putting out the fire. The house was finished, but not like there was anything worth it there. The thing was gone. There was nothing, no one but an empty, burnt house. The police kept both houses on lockdown and even evacuated the neighborhood. Everyone there was asked to stay with family or friends. A few days into the investigation, they had apparently even found a few blood spots in the forest near William's house, all identified to be animals. They had also found half-eaten carcasses of raccoons, cats, dogs, whatever else you could find outside. Even a deer. She was probably caught in the action. A few months had gone by, and nothing had happened more. Everyone was moved back into their house. A missing case was closed for William and Erica. Of course, to no avail, the case went cold. And 2 years later, still nothing. The house was rebuilt. New people have been moved into the houses. And I don't know if William is dead. I'm hoping. I don't know what I'm saying. I'm hoping for his sake that he is. God, please let him be dead. I don't want to know if he is. I think the thought of this story having its own ending, my ending, I guess I'm going to find out what happened to him soon, anyway. It's been 2 years since this happened to my best friend, William. I've been the one writing this story. I've read his texts and reviewed his footage multiple times, police reports and everything else that was given to me, that I was able to access legally. I've also talked to Ray, Erica's brother, the little girl that survived, and the investigators that were on the case. My name is Tom Drumming, and I'm writing about what happened to my friend, William, because yesterday morning, my wife went to the hospital and today I saw her on the toilet, and she's been there for almost an hour now. I can hear her vomiting